This episode of GMspiration is brought to you by Fowler's Bird Supplies. Need something for a unique feathered friend? Here at Fowler's, we frequently furnish finery for feathered fellows featuring financially feasible fees. From fairies to holophants and all things in between, we can help you source unique items needed to keep your feathered friends happy and healthy. We offer everything from nectar of ambrosia to infernal leeches. So come on down to Fowler's Bird Supplies, or organize one of our crypto-ornithologists to come out for a consultation today. Birds are amazing hunters. They have specialized, unique ways of hunting for all manner of environments. As a creator, there is no need to come up with a novel way a bird in your fantasy setting may hunt on your own. Instead, as I go through some of these unique methods, think about how you might alter, adapt, or build upon them for your own worlds. Welcome to GMspiration. I'm Harley, and today I'm going to delve into some of the fascinating ways birds hunt. In my last bird video, I ran through a selection of unique birds, mostly focusing on some of the unique biological aspects, such as the longest beak, the biggest and heaviest, and the largest claws. I ran through the peregrine falcon as the fastest animal in the world. It uses its hunting swoop to target the wing of another bird, disabling it with a precision strike. Probably goes without saying, but I will be discussing and showing pictures of birds hunting. None of these are going to be particularly graphic or gruesome, but it will include dead prey animals like fish and insects, as well as some blood, particularly when I talk about the vampire finches. This may not be everyone's cup of tea. First cab off the rank is the impressively named butcherbird. This includes several types of birds, but all of them are given the name due to their habit of sticking their prey on thorns, brambles, cacti, or similar, which is very similar to how a butcher hangs meat on hooks. Sometimes this is used to make it easier to eat, or sometimes it's used as storage and left there to come back to later. The prickles or thorns also provide some protection against scavengers attempting to get at them. With the spread of the urban environment, butcherbirds have also used barbed wire. In a fantasy world, a giant butcherbird would be an absolutely terrifying thing, taking humans and impaling them on branches to eat later. A party might enter a large, wild area of the forest and find animals and humans impaled on trees, with remnants of others on the ground under bloody branches. In a desert, a giant cactus may have goannas and sheep impaled on spines, as a horse-sized butcherbird waits nearby, guarding its larder. This could even be used to attract more prey, including those pesky adventurers who have a habit of picking through dead bodies. Speaking about attracting prey, there are specific birds that use a particular type of bait method. Herons use their long necks and sharp beaks to hunt fish, but some take this a step further. They drop insects and other small bits of bait on the surface of water. This attracts a fish, thinking it's an easy meal, and then the heron strikes. Creatures using bait to lure creatures is not a new principle. But if you use the heron as an example, the creature would place something where they expect the prey and then wait, almost motionless. This could be on a path through a forest, where it may drop something like, let's go with a broken coin pouch in the middle of the path. It then stands in the trees, motionless, with its long neck, waiting to strike anything that is attracted to it. The black heron uses a similar but modified way of attracting prey. Instead of bait, they stand in the shallow water and spread their wings out to form a canopy. This creates an umbrella area of shade beneath them where small fish gather. If you take a look at these images of black herons forming these canopies, they look otherworldly, like spheres of feathers half submerged in the water. If you didn't know what you're looking at, you may think these were strange totems made by humans. They lower their head into the canopy as well, likely helping their eyes adjust to the dark. Once enough fish have gathered, they strike with lightning speed with their spear-like beak. I'm certainly going to add in a few large versions of these herons. I look forward to explaining to the party that the sea was several large umbrella-like structures made of feathers standing in the shallows. In a fantasy sense, there are lots of examples of creatures pretending to offer something to lure in their prey, mimics being the obvious one. The black heron is a unique example of a stranger, otherworldly-like hunting method that would confuse anyone who'd never heard of it before. From above to below, cormorants are superb underwater hunters. These birds will dive into water, quickly propelling themselves with webbed feet, and sometimes using their wings to change direction similar to a penguin. Some cormorants can hold their breath for more than a minute, weaving through reeds and rocks as they go. They use the same quick reflexes of herons to strike out at fish. In order to swim as well as they do, they lack the same waterproofing that many other birds have. This means their feathers hold less air and therefore are less buoyant. If not for this, they could float to the surface and struggle to stay underwater. There is some dispute over exactly how waterproof or not the cormorant's feathers are. Perhaps they simply lack the waterproofing on their outer feathers, but maintain it on the inner. It's quite common to see cormorants holding their feathers out and sunning themselves, drying themselves off after diving. You can find them standing on piers or on the sides of rivers, drying themselves out. In places such as China, Japan and Greece, trained cormorants have been used by fishers as far back as 636 CE, and likely far, far further. The cormorants have a loose snare tied around the base of their throat that stops them from swallowing larger fish. The fisher will get the bird to regurgitate the caught fish out of its gullet and onto the boat. After the bird catches a few fish, the fisher then cuts up and feeds them to the bird. I remember being fascinated with this as a child. It seemed like such a unique and different way that hunting could occur. Can you imagine giants using wyverns in a similar way? The wyverns swallow characters, then fly back up to the giants operating a giant flying Viking longboat in the sky in order to regurgitate them. After they catch a few, the giant cuts up the next one and feeds it to the wyvern. Let's switch to another fish hunter, the raptor. This is a large family of birds that include ospreys and sea eagles. They snatch fish directly from the water. They will then fly off with the fish, some adjusting the fish so that it is facing forwards to reduce drag. This is where this image of an osprey carrying a fish came from that circulated on the internet a few years ago. This type of hunting is how I imagine most dragons would hunt. Fly high, spot prey, swoop down and snatch a cow, horse or human, and then they would fly off. They may even take a leaf out of the bearded vulture from my last bird video and drop a knight onto some exposed stones to break apart that pesky armor. No need to work on it yourself, and gravity will do it for you. The only issue might be how they would manage to catch their target unaware. Perhaps if they were silent like owls. Owls are able to fly almost completely silently thanks to specialized feathers and aerodynamics. The edges of the wings have tiny comb-like serrations that break up the airflow over them, so there is no rushing sound that we normally hear. Their feathers are also soft and velvet-like. All this combined, and they are effectively silent. They then use hunting methods much like the raptors, but at night, where they can use their silence and darkness to their advantage. Of course, most of their prey is also nocturnal. Owls are known for their excellent eyesight in the dark, but less well known is that most owls have asymmetric ears. In creatures with symmetric ears, such as humans, we can confuse the direction of noise that comes on an axis directly in front, above, or behind us. Basically, where the sound hits both ears at the same time. For owls, the axis where the direction can be misinterpreted does not travel along the same line. If they are looking at something, they'll be able to use the sound to help pinpoint its location, while a human may need to tilt their head in order to figure out where it's coming from. So owls are silent, but with excellent sight and hearing for nighttime hunting. A fantasy owl could extinguish light sources or create areas of darkness. Perhaps they simply extinguish things like campfires prior to attacking. On a moonless night, a large owl drops a bush onto a campfire, the thick green leaves smothering the fire and filling the air with smoke. It then circles around, listening to the panicked campers before targeting one standing away from the others coughing. With powerful talons and silent approach, it grabs them and flies off. The others are caught off guard as they hear their companion start to scream as they disappear into the night. Moving from silent to very noisy, the woodpecker hammers a beak into trees to dig out insects and grubs living in the wood. Their head is uniquely designed to take the force of the blow without damaging their brain. Their skull has a compressible sponge-like bone, and the tongue, or high road bone, of the woodpecker is very long and winds around the outside of their skull through a special cavity to cushion their brain. The beak is also specially designed to withstand the impact and direct the force of their blows directly forwards. Some woodpeckers also dig holes into trees and store nuts and acorns. The result is large wooden surfaces covered with holes containing nuts. They then defend the trees so they can eat the stored food throughout the year. There is also a subspecies, the sapsuckers, which dig small holes to drink the sap that comes out of the trees. I love the idea of characters coming across a large structure, perhaps a cliff face, with dozens of holes in neat rows. Inside it's been packed with all sorts of things: desiccated corpses, giant insects, fruits, nuts. The holes containing things might be sealed with mud and left to dry to help keep what's inside fresh for as long as possible. You might decide that this isn't a bird, perhaps it's guarded by a large lizard, but with a similar large beak-like spike that it uses to bash its head against the stone, cutting the holes. Switching to a different type of pecking, oxpeckers perch on oxen, buffalo, rhinos, and other similar large animals to feed on ticks, parasites, and dead skin. It was generally accepted that the birds had a mutually beneficial relationship with the creatures. However, there is some debate over how much the oxpeckers actually benefit the beasts. This includes how much they actually keep down the parasitic load on the creatures. Some oxpeckers have been shown to open new wounds and make existing ones worse. The behavior may be more parasitic than otherwise thought. In truth, it's probably not one or the other. The oxpeckers do keep insects and parasites down, but some might explore the relationship with the beasts. The concept of creatures living on others and having a mutually beneficial relationship with the larger creature is not new. In Farscape, the crew fly on a living biomechanical ship called Moya. In One Piece, the land of Zao exists on the back of the giant elephant Zunesha. The inhabitants of Zao, the minks, care for Zunesha, and it sprays water across its back to provide them with water and fish. I mentioned how oxpeckers can sometimes open wounds. Well, on the Galapagos Islands lives the vampire finches. When other food is short, they will peck and drink the blood of the Nazca and the blue-footed boobies. The boobies seem to let this happen, which could be due to the finches previously eating parasites off them, sort of like a maladapted previous behavior. They've been also known to push eggs out of nests and let them hit rocks to break open. This is quite an odd sight, but as I mentioned earlier with the oxpeckers, it could be something that the animals accept as it's always been that way. Regardless, it's quite the sight. The finch drinking the blood of the other bird as it just lets them happen. On an interesting side note, the vampire finch's gut biome is similar to vampire bats, with the presence of Peptostreptococcacea. Still sticking with the Galapagos Islands and finches, we have the cactus finches. The cactus finch pulls out and uses cactus spines and other sharp plant materials such as twigs. Holding the spine in their beak, they probe cracks in bark and rocks to either pry out, drag, or skewer insects. While other birds have developed long beaks, the finches have been able to adapt faster than their biology would allow. The finches are known to also keep their tools, carrying around good quality tools and reusing them. Taking tool use one step further are the new Caledonian crows. Not only do they use tools in the same manner as the cactus finches, they have been shown to reshape the tools, creating hooks on the end to help them catch their prey. They can also trim the length and change the shape. Unlike the finches, which try and find the right tool, Caledonian crows carefully craft the exact tool that they need. One such example is how they tear off sections of the pandanus leaf. The leaf has small barbs running along the outside of the leaf, so the crow tears off a section and then carefully reduces it to make something with a similar taper as a sword. The thicker top of the tool allows the crow to handle it with ease, while the point and barbs allow for precision work. This image is taken from Animal Tool Use by Amanda Seed and Richard Byrne, published in Current Biology in Volume 20, Issue 22. You can see several sections of the cut pandanus leaf made by crows. Each one is slightly differently, with different edges, but with a convenient row of spikes on the same side. These have broad bases and narrow ends, allowing for the precision use. So what sort of tool making could wild animals do in your world? I haven't even got into the amazing nests that birds can make, and already they're making something that looks similar to a fade blade. Could giant crows use hooks to pull people out of houses and towers? Could the party fight a bird wielding a magical spear? Perhaps certain birds dig holes like the woodpecker, cover it with leaves and branches, and then use long spear-like sticks to stab at the captured prey. In this episode, we've gone through several interesting ways birds hunt. As a quick wrap-up, we have the butcher bird capturing and impaling creatures to create a grotesque larder, the heron using insects to bait fish and then striking target with lightning reflexes. Black herons create spots of shade to lure small fish to false safety. Cormorants dive deep into the water and snake after their prey. Powerful raptors expertly target and rip fish from water. The unique biology of the owl granting near-silent flight. The way woodpeckers dig holes into trees to hunt insects or use them to store nuts. Oxpeckers eating parasites and dead skin off large beasts. Vampire finches drinking the blood of other birds. Cactus finches using cactus needles to skewer bugs out of holes they can't reach. And finally, the impressive tool making of the new Caledonian crows. When you design creatures for your setting, how do you think that they survive? What tricks and tools do they use to hunt? Do they lure prey with false safety like the black heron? Do they store victims for later in tougher times like the butcher bird? Do they rely on symbiotic partners, tools, or environmental tricks? When creatures modify their environment like the woodpeckers, They create these interesting locations for your players to explore. Nature is full of strange, weird, and clever solutions to problems. When we lean on that to make our own worlds, it provides us with a level of realism. If a bird in our world created a specifically designed tool, why couldn't one be like that in a fantasy world? Thank you for listening to this episode of GMspiration. I hope this tickled your inspiration, and most importantly, remember to have fun with your world building.